So, folks, Jeffrey Epstein can't stop plaguing our current president. And wouldn't you know it, the story continues to get a little bit weirder and a little bit weirder. Here's some new reporting from Bloomberg today. Oh, the FBI actually has already redacted Trump's name in the Epstein files. The Bureau's Freedom of Information Act team tasked with conducting a final review of the records blacked out the names before higher-ups said last month that releasing the documents would not be appropriate or warranted. So, weirdly enough, the FBI has tampered with the documents by editing out Trump's name from said documents. You know, just let's just throw that out there, okay? This was some pretty interesting stuff here. Before explaining the government's rationale for blacking out Trump's name, let's recap. Along with aliens and JFK assassination, conspiracy theories surrounding the life and death of convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein have long consumed MAGA. Epstein avoided federal sex trafficking charges in 2008. Hey, who helped get him that sweetheart deal? Who helped Jeffrey Epstein? I'm a little sketchy. Who helped Jeffrey Epstein get the sweetheart deal that allowed him to avoid federal charges? Oh yeah, it's a guy named Alex Acosta who went on to become Donald Trump's Secretary of Labor. That's so crazy. Weird how that works out. Hey, who was the Attorney General of Florida at the time? Oh yeah, when he was arrested again, the Attorney General of Florida was Pam Bondi. That's so strange. That's so weird. Huh. Weird coincidences, I guess. In July of 2019, following the investigation by the Miami Herald that also scrutinized the integrity of the government's probe, Epstein was indicted on federal charges of sex trafficking of minors. A month later, he died by suicide in his jail cell, federal law enforcement authorities said when awaiting trial. Let's see here. On February 27th, during a highly publicized event at the White House, Pam Bondi rolled out what the Justice Department referred to as the first phase of the release of the Epstein files. Oh, weird that it wasn't followed out by a phase 2. That's so strange. Almost like they did a little whoopsie-daisy and decided not to release them after 4 months teasing that they were going to release them. Must have been 4D chess. It was attended by former Pizzagate provocateur Jack Posobiec and other far-right influencers. They were given binders labeled the Epstein Files and the most transparent administration in history that contained about 200 pages of documents that Bondi characterized as declassified. She also suggested that the records would contain previously undisclosed details about Epstein. Instead, Bondi's big Epstein Files party was a bust. It turned out the documents she called declassified, which included pages from Epstein's infamous Black Book, had been previously released. Most recently during the criminal trial of Ghislaine Maxwell 4 years earlier. Oh, that's so strange. That's so weird. What happened next kicked off a new phase in the Epstein saga. As I reported in the March 28th edition of the FOIA files, Kash Patel directed FBI special agents from the New York and Washington field offices to join the Bureau's Freedom of Information Act employees at its sprawling central records complex in Winchester, Virginia, and another building a few miles away. They were instructed to search for and review every single Epstein-related document and determine what could be released. That included a mountain of material accumulated by the FBI over nearly 2 decades, including grand jury testimony, prosecutor case files, as well as tens of thousands of pages of the Bureau's own investigative files on Epstein. It was a Herculean task that involved as many as 1,000 FBI agents and other personnel pulling all-nighters while pouring through more than 100,000 documents, according to a July letter from Senator Dick Durbin to Bondi. Senior officials at the FBI Record Information Dissemination Section, or RIDS, which handles the processing of FOIA requests, pushed back on the directives. Michael Siddell, the section chief of RIDS, who worked at the FBI for about 14 years, was quite vocal. The 3 people familiar with the matter, Kash Patel blamed him for the failure to send all of the Epstein files to Bondi. Then, a couple of months ago, Siddell was told he could either retire or be fired, according to the people close to the matter. He chose the former and quietly left the FBI, the people said. Huh. Siddell could not be reached for comment. You know, it's so strange that one of the guys who oversaw the effort to make these files suitable for public release all of a sudden got fired, or was forced to retire, I guess. That's so weird. You know, there's no way to explain this. There's no way to explain this whatsoever. Wait, Guacamole Kid, are you seriously a Pizzagator in 2025? What's wrong with you? Who hurt you? What are you doing? You know, sometimes people just order pizza. Wow, we've found like an artifact from a bygone age. A moron entombed in ice. It's crazy. So, anyway, basically, we know that Donald Trump's name was found thousands of times in these documents because the people who helped do this work found his name thousands of times in the documents related to Jeffrey Epstein. Now, to be fair, there is no necessary connection between names being in the Epstein files and criminal activity. They were, after all, BFFs for over a decade. It's possible that Donald Trump didn't know that the guy who is showing up with 16-year-olds on his arm all the time was a pedophile. I guess that's possible, but only if you also concede that he's the world's dumbest man, which is entirely possible as well. So, I don't know. Hey, speaking of, let's talk about that statement Donald Trump made the other day about Virginia Giuffre, because it turns out that her family doesn't really like the fact that Donald Trump invoked her name and also talked about her like she was an object that was stolen from him instead of a human being who was abused as a child. So strange. Let's take a look here. It is with horror and outrage that we object to the preferential treatment convicted sex offender Ghislaine Maxwell has received. Ghislaine Maxwell is a sexual predator who physically assaulted minor children on multiple occasions, and she should never be shown any leniency. Yet, without any notification to the Maxwell victims, the government overnight has moved Maxwell to a minimum security luxury prison in Texas. This is the justice system failing victims right before our eyes. The American public should be enraged by the preferential treatment being given to a pedophile and a criminally charged child sex offender. The Trump administration should not credit a word Maxwell says, as the government itself sought charges against Maxwell for being a serial liar. This move smacks of a cover-up. The victims deserve better. Signed by Annie Farmer, Maria Farmer, Sky and Amanda Roberts, family of Virginia Roberts Giuffre, Lynette and Danny Wilson, family of Virginia Roberts Giuffre. So just as an FYI, that's multiple women signing on to this statement, talking about how the Donald Trump administration is actively protecting and showing favor to the pedophile who abused them. Like, I'm sorry, even if you are in the camp of like Donald Trump, I just don't believe Donald Trump's a pedophile. Okay, why is he carrying water for one then? Why did he wish this woman well? And why is he now moving her towards clemency? I don't know. I would like to see some MAGA folks kind of, I would like to see them answer that. What caused Donald Trump, the president of the United States, to send his personal lawyer all of a sudden to go talk with a convicted pedophile, then move her to a luxury prison? That seems really weird, especially overruling the wishes of the families of the women who were abused by this by Maxwell. Seems weird, right? Seems weird. You know what? Let's take a look at one of the people who accused Jeffrey Epstein. This is Sarah Ransom.
She participated. She tortured me and others, and she's worse than Jeffrey. She broke the sisterhood. She broke that bond. She was supposed to be a protector and nurturer, and she failed us. And she'll have to live with that for the rest of her life. She participated.
I don't defend Maxwell. You gotta. Your boy's the one giving personal orders to move her to better prisons, giving personal orders to, treat her very well and potentially pardon her. He's not ruling that out. Kind of weird, huh? Kind of weird that it seems like the president of the United States is mulling over whether or not to commute the sentence of a convicted pedophile or outright pardon her. That's pretty weird. Here's another statement, again from Sarah Ransom.
I was forced into Jeffrey's room to be raped by Ghislaine. Ghislaine is as responsible, if not more, than Jeffrey.
What would justice look like for you as you sit here today?
Jeffrey's dead, Ghislaine's here. I want Ghislaine behind bars for the rest of her life, purely because she is that sick. The public are not safe with her on the street. I was...
Maybe she's gonna testify against the entire ring. You know what's better than testimony? Terabytes and terabytes of evidence. That's better than testimony. And that evidence is currently in the hands of the FBI and the FAA and the US Treasury Department, because the US Treasury Department has Jeffrey Epstein's monetary transaction history. Oddly enough, Scott Bessant is being non-cooperative and not releasing that information. Oddly enough, the FAA being uncooperative, not releasing that information. The FBI, oddly enough, not being cooperative and not releasing that information. That's really weird, right? Especially coming from the administration that ran an entire campaign based on releasing that information specifically. So evidence is probably better than just the testimony of someone who is convicted of perjury. See, this is another problem with the whole Maxwell is set to testify. The problem with that is that she's been convicted of lying on the stand, meaning that you cannot trust what she says. That's kind of a big problem in a case like this. Here, let's take a look here. Here's Virginia Guffrey's brother.
It would unwind everything that my sister and all the survivors fought for. It would be a disgrace of justice. It would be picking abusers over survivors again. And I truly believe that justice isn't finished here, but I certainly think this is a good start. And by not letting her out, it's the right thing to do. It would.
You know, it's kind of weird that if you're doing a 4D plan to manipulate the public, that you wouldn't, I don't know, privately meet with the families of victims and let them know, hey, don't worry, I'm not actually going to pardon the pedophile who helped sexually assault your sister. You know, kind of weird. Kind of weird. One of the interesting things here, I want to throw this out there. I took a look at a recent interview that Michael Wolff, Epstein's biographer, did with the Daily Beast. And it's a lengthy interview. I'm not going to watch the entire thing here. In it, he talks about the fact that he believes that it is likely that Maxwell released the letter, the birthday letter that the Wall Street Journal talks about, to the Wall Street Journal as a warning shot to the Trump administration. And that is, in fact, why the Trump administration suddenly started bending over backward to try and meet with her. Because she has some kind of dirt that could implicate the president. That's why the president sent his number two, the number two most important lawyer in the country, and his former defense attorney to meet with her. Okay? I think that that is fairly credible. I think that that's fairly credible because we also know, again, according to Michael Wolff, he has seen pictures of Donald Trump with underage girls who are unclothed. Those pictures exist. He has unfortunately described them in detail. Now, it is unknown if that was in the possession of the FBI at the time of the raid, but if they weren't, they might still be somewhere, and someone might actually have them, and that someone might be Ghislaine Maxwell. So it could be that. Another possibility being floated is that it is possible that Maxwell has some kind of access that allowed her to copy email correspondences between Jeffrey Epstein and other people. If that is the case, she might actually be someone who has a secondary archive of a lot of Jeffrey Epstein's digital material. And if that's the case, that is a huge problem for the Trump administration if they do not want this information to go public. It's pretty interesting. I just think that there's a lot of strangeness happening, especially now that, despite the president of the United States claiming that his name definitely does not appear in the Epstein files, and then it turns out, oh wait, thousands of FBI agents exist that can corroborate that his name is littered throughout the Epstein files. That's weird. There is something fundamentally weird and fundamentally untruthful about what the Trump administration is saying. Now, you can come to your own conclusions about what that means, but to me, it definitely indicates that there is something there. There is a there, as the saying goes. We are not privy to what that is. What could it be? Maybe Donald Trump is totally innocent, but he's trying to protect somebody else. Maybe he's totally in the clear, but it seems weird that the complete shutdown of the push to release these files happened after Donald Trump was informed by Pam Bondi that his name was in those files. That seems very strange and related to the timeline of events. And now we have gotten to a point where the families of the sexually abused children are pleading with the president of the United States not to release a convicted pedophile. And there are still people who are willing to go to bat and say, well, you know, maybe he's doing this for the greater good. And I gotta tell you, if you take off your goddamn propagandized glasses for a nanosecond, you will understand that this is not like a hypothetical game. This isn't like a 5D chess match. It is just a 2-bit con man, for some reason, lying over and over and over and over again. And you have to, at some point, wonder why those lies are happening.
Riverboat Jack is coming to town. All the viewers gather around. Twitch and YouTube and swishy streams. All that content is bursting the seams. Politics, gaming, plenty more. Your sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's Discord.